Right, welcome to another week of Bible study and a new chapter, which is entitled Recollection and Contemplation. Uh, to be recollected is to be truly wakeful, and contemplation is the source that feeds all life in Christ, and at the same time, the end in which life finds its fulfillment. Recollection is the opposite of distraction. There are different types of distraction. One is the inability to concentrate on any one thing. Our thoughts are on one thing and then another without ever giving proper attention to the logos or true meaning of any one thing. The opposite can also be true, and we give too much attention to one thing and not give proper attention to the more needful thing. Having said this, the mere absence of distraction is not recollection either. A person who uh, goes through their day completely focused on individual tasks is no closer to being recollected than the person who cannot focus on any one thing. Rather, in recollection, we gather our full attention before God. This allows us to put the present into context of our overall selves. Without recollection, we are also drawn towards the tyranny of the urgent, making choices that give too much weight to the present moment. Recollection can be a gift, as for example, when we have a moment when we just see very clearly what God's will and purpose for our lives is. Or it can be something we intentionally and consciously remind ourselves of, that we are to see all things in the light of Christ. We're certainly not uh, meant to wait for those moments when the truth of our condition is seen before God. Rather, we need to intentionally seek this and also welcome those times when God shows us just miraculously how we fit into this world. So, being recollected is the continual state of this awareness. Daily concerns flit around in our minds and we respond to them, but the awareness of life and God is like background music that colors our daily lives and activities. To maintain this, we must take moments to remind ourselves of our living in the presence of God. Contemplation is not rest, relaxation, or recreation. These things deal with the absence of focus and intellectual activity, whereas contemplation is the activity of focusing on an object. Contemplation always focuses on ends rather than means. Mary, for example, was focused on Jesus. Martha was focused on serving him. Work is associated with a goal, so is future orientated and has an end, i.e., the meal for Jesus is made and then eaten and then cleaned up. That's the end of the work. In contemplation, the object is the end. Mary sitting at the feet of Jesus and is focused on the present. It can even reach the point of being out of time, where we lose all sense of time. We can contemplate things, works of art, aspects of creation as examples, and persons. In persons, there can also be an interpersonal aspect. But in all these cases, we are never merely giving intellectual assent. Contemplation has to include a response from us, whether it be joy, love, awe. Contemplation does not need God as its direct object. However, all, con- all true contemplation must be seen in with reference to God. This is because all good, beauty, truth, etc., have their source in Him. Contemplation is the fundamental and natural state of our spiritual life. This does not mean that activity is not good or even necessary. We are not only beings, but we are also still becoming. Still, our primary attitude is to be one of receptivity to God, to allow God to have all of us, to allow His Word to have its say in our life. Transformation is primarily a process by Him. It involves change, certainly, but all creaturely action is transitory. Contemplation is not, and so it is final. It is our end. Recollection prepares us for contemplation, but contemplation is required to remain recollected. And I think this is why von Hildebrandt put these two together. They're intimately connected. Recollection requires that we daily devote prayer and time for prayer to God, to center our thoughts and to come to Him with no agenda, just to merely be in His presence. We should also seek to integrate prayer into moments throughout our day, as First Thessalonians says, 5:17, to pray without ceasing, as well as to seek to be ever conscious of God, aware that God is in and around us at all times. Silence and inner stillness can help us in this direction as well, as do times of solitude. On the other hand, there are very practical things that we need to keep in mind as well, like getting sufficient rest. That also helps us. Further, we need times of relaxation, and this is true especially following intense times of contemplation when we sense very close to God, because we are not capable of maintaining deep religious intensity indefinitely. I think the best way to describe that is we need a rhythm to our lives, and times of intensity and times of rest. Finally, we see that recollection and contemplation aid in our transformation in Christ, and that they both help us towards simplicity and are a goal in themselves. If you remember what we talked about last week, simplicity is seeking the one thing above all the rest. This is exactly what Jesus said to Martha, that you're concerned about a great many things, but only one thing is needed. So you see in that way how recollection and contemplation actually um, dovetail into simplicity as well. But they are a goal in themselves. Our destiny is to be recollected in God, and our destiny is to engage in eternal contemplation of Him. How that's going to look uh, remains to be seen, but that is going to be our joy, to be with Him and enjoy Him forever. All right, that's a brief overview of recollection and contemplation, and hopefully we'll see many of you Thursday night. Take care.